dream is to have a giant metaphysical collaboration of the young astrologers and alchemists. I'd love to see, and when I say young astrologers and alchemists, I mean young at heart. So anyone who is able to think about traditional methods a little bit different, a little bit unique. I'd love to see and be part of the creation of a community that has a safe environment where we can all be on the cutting edge of research and ideas. I want a community that loves one another, one that is not afraid to disagree, but knows that after strong disagreements and passions, that we can be friends again, and that not being friends was never in question. I want a community where the information is free and the uploading of information is free, as long as you have something worthwhile to say. Everyone will be on equal footing, and the structure will be based on the merit of information that you put forth, and the understanding of the material. We're going to talk about three things here. One, we're going to talk about the website alquology.com and what its function is or how I see it. The second one, I'm going to be talking about the young astrologers and the young alchemists and how we have to come together. And the third one we're going to talk about is ethics, as that is super important and hasn't been talked about enough. So the beginning part, we need a safe place to publish research and to throw out ideas that might be controversial or really unorthodox. If you have put some considerable thought into your ideas, then they are welcome, then we will have space for it. The alquology.com, that's A-L-Q-U-O-L-O-G-Y, which is a mixture between astrology and alchemy, is a place to do this with little or no consequence or backlash. So let's drop our fears of speaking, writing, and publishing our truth. Now the reason for this is I would like alquology.com to be a personal place for pen names or surnames, so that you don't have to use your actual name, so it doesn't affect your job, it doesn't affect your career, it doesn't affect people coming after you if you say controversial stuff, which happened with, the electric car, for instance. That was, under the scene for about 60 years, and we're kind of going around that by not publishing our actual names. And I'm not going to give you my actual pen name because I don't want to be known, but I'll be adding papers on how to create a pen name and how it cannot be traced. And what I mean by not being traced is you can make emails, you can buy a phone, and you can do a way to post to not have your IP address show up. So instead of an IP address from Utah, you'd have an IP address in Singapore or Iraq or whatever like that. So basically when you're posting, it's going to a separate place. So that gives you a bit of anonymity. The website is based for anonymity, safety, and personal protection. Now, when I say personal protection, all you really need to do is do a little research in the history of anything, really, to know that new information is not treated very nicely. We kill our gurus in the West, and then we deify them afterwards. All you need to do is watch shows like Prison Break, Lost, or the History Channel to know that there are nasty fractions who do not want to lose their power and will kill, shame, maim, destroy anything that is against them. All we need to do is look at Monsanto, Merck, or any of the pharmaceuticals to see this distinction. We need to look at our 1% and the 99% from the occupied people. We need to see the United States government and our lobbyists. Especially look at Lockheed Martin, which is an independent contractor of our military. And they will tell us, and they tell us how to run this country because they get 95% of the military contracts. They basically dictate how things go. Honestly, the anonymity is really here to save your life and in the long run your job. Honestly, I'm way more comfortable living out of the limelight and just look at the entertainment industries of movie actors, soccer stars, or NBA stars, and politicians. The limelight is a full-time job, and it reminds me of being a janitor fated to always clean up messes. I don't want that. The second cool thing that we can do is we can reference our pen names as we begin to pursue degrees and publish things that would not get published before, because we are not the authors, we are the alter egos. So we can reference things in academia saying, oh, hey, I stumbled into this article from alquology.com. It was talking about astrology and alchemy. You give the definition for it, and you can basically say, this is really interesting. They did a unified theory of astrology, and basically cite it that way so that you're not coming up with it, but it's being published and germinated. The third thing is, the shockingness and craziness would not come back to you as the actual person. It would be the alter egos that are writing it. So teachers don't think it's coming from 18 to 25-year-olds or 30-year-olds, and they think it could be coming from 70-year-old alchemists and astrologers who've been compiling their data for years and years and years. Many people are in a reincarnation, so maybe lifetimes. And so that gives a pretty cool little way to push it forward. And so basically the website is going to be broken into different areas. So we can be on the cutting edge of research without worry or blowback. Some areas I was thinking is we'll have a mission statement, and then these will be different tabs. We'll have ethics, music, art, philosophy, psychology, history, sociology, math, political science, astrology, and alchemical methodology, as well as a tab called Others, which will be a catch-all tab for whatever. I also want to split each tab into beginning, intermediate, and advanced, so that beginners will not have to slog through the advanced trees and vice versa. Any ideas would be appreciated on how to move forward with this. I have my own limitations with the internet, but I'll be using WordPress, and the site will be up this Saturday. The second part is the Young Astrologers and Young Alchemists. We need to work together. I'd like to have both the Young Alchemists and Young Astrologers on the same page, because I know for a matter of fact that we need each other to move forward. Astrologers are weak in alchemical practices, unless they are Vedic, and alchemy is weak in astrology aspects, except for their practice astrology, which is kind of crude at best. If we can combine these, there's nothing we cannot accomplish. Honestly, if we stay separate, we should create a young alchemist group that publishes cutting-edge alchemical research. And the young astrologers, I know that they're going to start doing their own published research. Both can utilize alquology.com under surnames to put out their fresh ideas to see how it fares before it reaches the more prestigious research of the young astrologers or the young alchemists that are currently forming under Phoenix Aurelius, Grant, and Tom Waters, among others who are leaders in the field. Also, some of our current research, especially the transparency, will drive our masters and gurus crazy. So that is the reason for the alquology, because it gives us the anonymity, not to mention we will be pissing off the powers in our government and the darker groups that run our government. So honestly, the founding fathers knew what they were doing when they said we were collectively stronger together than separate. The story about the 13 arrows being unbreakable as one is easily shattered. This comes from Spontaneous Evolution by Bruce Lipton and Steve Berman. And they also talk about how the Iroquois Nation is where the idea of America came from. And they set up their government for a more ideal form of America. And I have the article from crack.com on my website, and I'll have the link for it. And it's really amazing if you honestly think about it, because it'll make you laugh as you cry. The native culture is one of the highest ideal images of living alchemy through their lifestyle. They thought and saw the world as current astrologers and alchemists do. This was incompatible with the white, racist, rapist mentality and the epic greed that our ancestors had, so it was destroyed. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is ethics. This is really important. We need to have a foundation that describes the do's and don'ts. As far as I understand it, we only have one ethical guideline for astrologers, and that was published 1,000 years ago by Firmicus Maternus. The other ones that I've heard, Stephen Vanel is working on publishing his ethics, which is really interesting, and he does Kabbalah and alchemy. And then we have a guy named John Marchella, who is a clinical psychologist, and he was talking about this, and they're both quite knowledgeable in the areas. We should have an outline that talks about what we should not do, as well as people's reservations, which is really important on what we should not do, whether they want to bring it to the media or whether they don't. We should have the wrong application of astrology, the damage that astrologers can have on people, as well as some good examples of where astrology shines, like timing, navigating, life markers, or tactics. Some examples are, should I date strictly using astrology? Does astrology give me an unfair advantage? And should I care? Should I bet on sports? Should I tell someone that they or a loved one will die? What if I am wrong in guiding them from my ignorance? What if I create a self-fulfilling prophecy? I think we also need to have a strong reevaluation of what fate is, and have more philosophical treatises into why astrology is not a science. Glenn Perry did a really awesome thing about fate, and I'll bring that out as the next lecture. And we need to talk about why astrology is not a science and more of an art that espouses personal living myth and works more with possibility. However, we have the Gators who want to change astrology into more of a scientific thing, and so we need more treatises on how that works also. So why astrology should be considered a soft science. So.